Hey everybody, Eric Grenier here with Philippe J. Fournier for this week's episode of The Numbers. Philippe, how is it still winter? We got
I know.
2 days until spring and I'm looking at snow outside my window here.
I know it's I got a late winter blues, my friend. It's okay. It snows and it's cold in March. It's not unusual, but I must say I'm longing for the warmer days right now because this is depressing. But you know what's not depressing is that we're talking this morning and we have tons of polls to décortiquer and to decipher. And federal polls, we have provincial polls. We have numbers also on the events in the Middle East. We have plenty to talk about. So, Eric, where would you like to start this morning?
Well, we will start with those federal numbers, and we've gotten a lot of polls over the last week. We've had 5 new national polls that have been published from most of the usual suspects, and we'll go through them. But these are kind of big numbers. Very high scores for the Liberals, pretty low scores for the Conservatives. Some historically high number, so Abacus came out. They have an 11-point gap for the Liberals, which is the biggest they've recorded since August 2021, when
that's right.
Justin Trudeau looked at the polls and said, hey, I should try an election.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, it didn't work out. He got reelected. But Nanos has the Liberals at 48%, or I think just under it, right, with their decimals. And I think I looked at the chart, and it seems like it might be the highest that they've had in their tracking. If not, it's the highest since 2016, so it's been a decade.
Wow.
So these are big, big numbers, and I think the question here is the Liberal surge over? Will it continue? And is the Conservative decline? Are we in the midst of it, or have they hit a floor? Have the Conservatives hit a floor somewhere close to 30%? Have the Liberals, do they have a ceiling? And is it somewhere close to 50%? What do you think?
Well, they have a ceiling. We know that. They have a ceiling.
It's at least 100%, right?
It's just that right now, it's so surprising. The Nanos numbers are quite surprising, Eric, because as we all know, it's a rolling poll over 4 weeks, and so usually it lags a bit, and it moves slowly. But it didn't move slowly this time. So compared to the previous wave from Nanos, that's 4 weeks ago, so fielded from mid-January to mid-February, Liberals gained 10 points. Conservatives lost 6. So this is a swing of 16 points in a rolling tracker, which is incredible. And during that same time, of course, we saw Mr. Carney take a big lead in the preferred prime minister question. 35 points over Pierre Poilievre, so now it's 57-22, stable from last week. So we know the Liberals have a ceiling. It's just, it's hard to believe that the ceiling is closer to 50 than it is to 40. They had 43.7 in the election, so numbers between 40 and 45 are big, but they shouldn't be like eye-popping. When you see a 48, we had 49 from Léger 2 weeks ago, and now we have a 48 from Nanos. And Abacus, as you said, and you're right to point it out, Abacus polling, I'm not saying it's skewed, but it's usually a little more conservative in all sense of the word. And
it doesn't move as dramatically as sometimes we see from the other pollsters.
Go see on my side. You can see only Abacus polls on the chart. You can filter through pollsters. And you can see it's really flat. It doesn't move that much. So this movement, double-digit lead in Abacus for the Liberals, including big leads in key places, right? Plus 15 in Ontario from Abacus.
Yeah.
Plus 9 in BC, and so those who don't think that's much, BC is usually much closer than this. And 14 points ahead in Quebec. This is, I think you updated your projection. It had been a while. You updated your projection on the RIT, and I think you and I are quite close. I have 209 for the Liberals in terms of seats right now, of course, projected seats. So where is that Liberal ceiling? It has to be under 50. I can't imagine going above 50 very much, right?
Well, so we had the Abacus 46-35, Liberal Conservatives. Nanos, as you said, 48-31 for the Conservatives. Liaison had 45-31 for the Conservatives. Main Street had 46-36, and Ecos had 48-27. So, you got 45 to 48% in these polls. As you mentioned, Léger had him at 49. 50% would be like it. I think we've gotten a bit desensitized to some of these numbers over the last
That's
little
right.
while. But if you or someone like you or I, but especially me, who was following polling numbers back in the early minority years for Stephen Harper, it's just incredible to see these kinds of numbers. These are Jean Chrétien in
Yeah.
the late 90s kinds of numbers.
Yeah.
Brian Mulroney got just over 50% in 1984. We did see a few polls just before Justin Trudeau resigned where the Conservatives were starting to get these kinds of numbers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we ever had a Conservative 49. I might have had a 48. Maybe you can look it up.
I can pull that up, but I think we had 48s. But let me
Yeah.
keep going.
But
I'm going to pull that up. Yeah.
You see the regional numbers. It's not so much that they're going up a huge amount in places where they already had a lot of support, right? They're doing well in Ontario, but it's only a few more points in Ontario. They're doing good in Quebec, but again, only a few more points, doing well in BC. Atlantic Canada, once in a while you get like a 60-something or even a 70, I think we saw once. But I think what's the big shift we've seen over the last little while is that in poll after poll, it's really difficult to really contemplate it. But we see the Liberals near 40% in Alberta. We see them doing well in the prairies. Sometimes they're actually leading the Conservatives in the prairies. And that is something that is very new, right? It's one thing to see high numbers in Ontario. Okay, it just means a few more GTA seats. It means like, maybe a few more in the Southwest, something like that. But when they're starting to score near to 40 in Alberta, when it seems like they could be very competitive in at least the urban areas in Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
like that is when we're starting to get into this new territory, and that's why our projections can now have them comfortably over 200, and it's not nuts. It's not crazy to have them at that kind of level of support when it's a two-party race, and the gap is now double digits, and at least a minimum like it's not like some polls are at 11 or 12. It's that now we're starting to see that the 11 or 12s are the lower polls.
Yeah. To go back to the projection, I had the Liberals leading by 10 on average in my projection. It's going to go up. And I'm already at 200 seats for the Liberals. If the average is 13 points, and as you said, in places we're not used to, like, would the Liberals win 5 seats in Saskatchewan? Would they win 10 in Alberta? Like, this is really unusual stuff. And many people who are listening to us would say, yeah, but that's not sustainable in the long term. Like, we know that, but it could be sustainable over many months, sometimes maybe even a few years, especially if the situation worldwide doesn't change much. If we think COSMA will be renegotiated at some point, there will be probably some concessions made by all parties. We don't know how that's going to end up, but the situation in the world is showing a lot of uncertainty, and voters, when there's uncertainty, they go to that comfort blanket, and right now it's the Liberals. By the way, I'm scrolling the polls of the 44th Parliament, so prior to this one, I cannot see a 48. I see 47s, but I can't see a 48 for the Conservatives. So if I go back, I see Abacus data 47. That's in early January, just as Trudeau was leaving. Léger again in early January, 47 to 21. I see a Nanos research. I guess that was the peak in Nanos. That was 47 Conservative, 20 Liberal, 18 NDP. Boy, are we in a different universe right now. And that's just 14 months ago.
But the question of where the ceiling is, what I find interesting is that, so Mark Carney's best preferred prime minister numbers in Nanos, they've gone up a bit.
Yeah.
They've gone up a decent amount, but it's starting to get a bit closer to the vote numbers, right? Because we were seeing not too long ago that they were often scoring 50 to 53, or Carney was, and the Liberals would be 36 to 40. And so it wasn't really matching up as much. Now the gap is less than 10 points between preferred prime minister and voting intentions. And eventually you reach a bit of a maximum, right? You're not going to get every person who thinks you could be the best prime minister, because he's getting lots from, for example, maybe Bloc voters who know that Yves-François Blanchet probably not going to become a prime minister. You have NDP
Good
voters
odds.
who might
Yeah.
be like, well, Davies is an interim leader. He's not. So there is going to be a ceiling there. And so I wonder if he is now starting to get to that ceiling where he's kind of maxing out, and it'll only be down from here, right? Because, I mean, if the Liberals start to average 47, 48,
Yeah.
it starts to become hard to see how they could get higher than that. So I think that they must be at their ceiling. I don't like if the Liberals were at, let's say they're averaging 53, okay? What are they getting at a regional level? It starts to get into like implausible numbers, right?
It's getting silly a little bit. It's basically, it would be 40% at least in every province, including Alberta. And maybe not including Saskatchewan, but at this point, we're in those crazy numbers. We don't know. The thing is, if the Conservatives are back to 31, 32%, we're back into what we saw for many years under Rona Ambrose, under Andrew Scheer, and Erin O'Toole. So these numbers would indicate that you lose by double digits. You're not competitive in Quebec. You lose by double digits in BC and double digits in Ontario. There is no path, even though you could have strong spots in the country. Like the Conservatives outperform in southwestern Ontario. Okay, good for you. But the Conservatives need to find that map from 2025 and add 35 seats. That's what they need. Right now, not only don't they add, they would lose all these many close races that from the 25 election, and there were many of those. For the political playbook, and I work with my friend Nick Taylor-Racy, the great journalist for Politico. He told me to look at the close races in the 25 election and tell me which ones since have flipped. And I told him, anything that was closer than 5 points in the election right now in the projection would flip to the Liberals, right? In BC, there were many close races. When you go one by one, you realize, oh my God, this was won by 3 points. This was won by 4 points. What's the ceiling for the Liberals in British Columbia? Like 25 seats possible? I mean, we didn't think 20 seats was possible. So, considering all this, we realize, you and I hope people who watch it and listen to us realize, these are hypotheticals. Now, this is the landscape now, and of course, in a campaign that would last 5 weeks, it's not guaranteed that it would last that long. In the 25 campaign, at some point, the Liberals were leading by an average of 7 points. They won by 2.5, so it got closer. You would think that it would get closer if there's an election right now. It's just that there has to be something really disheartening to see all these numbers. If you're Conservatives, and at some point, do you enter denial? Do you enter the phase where we saw some supporters during the campaign says, why don't believe the polls? Yeah, the polls take the picture of the now. And the picture of the now is pretty bleak for, I would say, not only the Conservatives, all opposition parties. The NDP is not doing well here. And the NDP is 1 week away, 1 week and like 9 days away from choosing a new leader. That new leader will have his or her work cut out for them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers. Abacus had 7, Main Street had 7 for the NDP, Liaison had 9, Nanos had 11. Now, Nanos has always had them a little bit higher. Then Ecos had 15. I don't think they're at 15, with all due respect, but based on everything else we've seen, all these other polls. But for the Conservatives, 35 in Abacus, 31 in Nanos, 31 Liaison, 36 in Main Street, 27 in Ecos. That does start to sound like the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, the Liberals, as we saw in 2011, they dropped down to 19%. As we saw with Justin Trudeau, they could get into the low 20s consistently. We saw a handful of polls had them in the teens. So the Liberal floor is theoretically
like 20?
Somewhere just south of 20, right?
Yeah.
Like it's possible to get them down there because we've seen it happen. But I've never really seen the Conservatives much lower on a consistent basis than 27, 28, right? Their base is just too strong. They don't have enough competition for their votes. You know, as the Liberals, if they start to lose support, they lose support to the Bloc, they lose it to the NDP, they can lose it to the Greens. Doesn't happen for the Conservatives that much. And some of these do seem like they're at the floor, which is incredible to think when it was just like, we're talking like 12 months ago.
Yeah.
The Conservatives were putting up still 40s, numbers that Stephen Harper rarely was able to manage. And now we're talking about whether the Conservatives have hit a floor. Do you think that the fact that the Liberals are now doing this well and the Conservatives are doing this badly, that there'll almost be a reaction to it to almost force people to go back to the mean, right? Like that people who might have feared a Conservative government and so were giving their vote to the Liberals feel they don't need to do that anymore. That Conservatives who, it feels like once you get into a narrative where the Liberals are leading by 15 points, that itself has an impact on how people are viewing the different parties and the dynamics.
It would be a good campaign slogan for the NDP to say, "Don't worry, it's safe. Liberals will win. You don't have to fear the ogre of the Conservatives. You can vote for us and support your local NDP MP." It's just
I have the slogan.
You do?
Don't worry, be happy, vote NDP.
Vote NDP.
That's what the slogan can be in the next election.
Well, that's an episode title, my friend. So,
hey, that'd be catchy. I like that.
No, but it's interesting. We mentioned that, I believe, last week, and it was reinforced. Now there are by-elections going on right now, 2 in Toronto and 1 in Terrebonne, just north of Montreal. And you saw Yves-François Blanchet, the Bloc leader, basically say the Liberals will have their majorities. They have their floor crossers. They will win those 2 seats in Toronto, in Scarborough and downtown Toronto, so you can safely vote for the Bloc, right? It's such an interesting tactic.
It's admitting a sort of weakness, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, it
or
used
at least
to
the
be
strength of the opponent.
It used to be the Bloc will stand in the way of a Liberal majority. We will stand there, and many voters but actually we want the Liberals to have a majority. And so the Bloc is like, we can represent our interests, but don't worry, the Liberals will get their majority without Terrebonne. Right,
yes, you can vote, if you want the Liberal majority, you can still vote for the Bloc because it won't matter. That is actually a bit of an interesting message, which I think says a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They see the same polls as us.
If you're worried about the majority, don't worry, they'll get it anyway. You can still vote for us. That is just... It's just insane.
It's nuts. It's just also the Bloc is a serious party, by the way. They have internal data. They do polling. They commission polls from many sources, and so they know what's going on the field, and they see the same things as us. Saying if François Blanchet would go all out against Mark Carney, the evil Mark Carney who doesn't even speak French well, and he wants to attack Quebec culture and attack Quebec interest, he would lose. And so he has to be more prudent than that, and I think he is. But this is backed by data, I mean that those results in April will be so interesting. Can the Bloc resist that liberal wave that's going on through the country, including Quebec and suburban Montreal, which hadn't been strong for the Liberal? I mean, I should mention this. Terrebonne had not gone Liberal since 1980, when every seat was Liberal except Joliette. And that's why it was so unusual. Terrebonne was not even close in recent elections. I looked it up. The closest result in Terrebonne was a 6-point victory by the Bloc. And it was because the vote was split with the NDP. So Terrebonne went NDP in the orange wave. But it's been Bloc easily since the Bloc was created. The fact that the Liberals were able to pull a 1-vote victory and won this one, this is a massive shift going on right now. That shouldn't be ignored.
Yeah, well, I mean, our reaction here is incredulity because these numbers are just kind of insane, right? Because when you think about it, for a long chunk of the podcast, now we're approaching our 3 years now. For a big chunk of the podcast, the numbers weren't really doing much. They weren't moving all that much. There was a little bit, brief moment when suddenly they picked up after Trudeau was replaced by Carney, and then everything, for the most part, it's been pretty steady for most of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So when you start to see this huge movement, it just makes it all the more dramatic. One of the findings from the Abacus poll that I thought was mind-blowing, because we've seen this question that Abacus has, and it always looks really bad for the governing party. But this one, not so much. So 40% of Canadians say that the Liberals deserve re-election. And Abacus says for the first time since they've started tracking this, that polls the other options. The other options are it's time for change and there's a good alternative, which was only 36%. and 25% said it's time for change, but there's no good alternative, which is kind of this middle road that probably is good for the government, right?
Yeah.
But to see that the 40% for deserving re-election,
Yeah.
and then you add the 25% who says time for change, but the other options are no good. Like that is just, I think that just kind of tells the tale, right? That it's not just that Carney's popular and that the Liberals are doing well. It's that we see now that there is a view among people who don't like Carney or who don't really like the Liberals, that there's a good chunk of them that don't think that the other options are any better. Like I think that Abacus had a similarly worded question on Doug Ford, and the deserving re-election was in the 20s, and he's leading in that poll by 12 points.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Like it just shows how this is a very unusual. Like it hasn't been that many different governments, but I've never seen really these kinds of numbers at this kind of stage, at this kind of age of a sitting government.
Oh yeah, and a huge turnaround because that tracker from Abacus has been going on for years now, and at some point the deserve to be re-elected for the Liberals was in the teens, right? It was like 13-15%, and you look at this like, okay, they're cooked, they're done. 1 year later, 40%, that's a solid floor for the Liberals. The question again will be, how long will it last? And we don't know. Polls don't predict the future, unlike what pollsters are saying. But they don't predict the future. Did you want to mention we had Main Street polls, local poll, and also a BC poll that contained federal numbers. Well, let me start with BC here.
Sure.
So BC sample, close to 1,000 sample, just in BC, 47 Liberal, 34 Conservative, 10 NDP, 4 Green. Now, compared to the general election that we had last year, the Liberals won the popular vote by about a point in BC, but the NDP was also at, was it 15? Yeah, it was 15 in the province. So some erosion of NDP support. Now we have to be careful because usually Main Street has the NDP a bit lower, but not like 5 or 6 points lower. It's like usually it's 1 or 2 points.
I think the same poll also had the BC NDP leading by a couple of points, right? We'll get to it later, but yeah.
Yeah. 13-point lead in British Columbia. If the Liberals picked up 20 seats in BC by having a 1 point advantage in a vote, what would a 13-point advantage do? Basically, look at this. The NDP would be wiped out of the province if those numbers were transferred into a ballot box in an election. We'll have to get to that, the NDP, because they would not win many seats right now. So.
No, we'll do a bit of a deeper dive in the NDP next week as we get ready to head off to Winnipeg. But it's just interesting to see these numbers in BC because if you remember back in November, we were more or less saying that Carney was trading Alberta for British Columbia with the MOU.
Yeah.
And we were expecting that, the Liberals are going to have to make up for some losses that they're going to have in the BC Lower Mainland.
Nope.
No, instead they got Alberta, and they seem to also be doing quite well in British Columbia. So it just even there, it just kind of shows how prognosticating into the future is a risky thing to do. And the fact that they do seem to be leading, like I said, Abacus had a 9-point lead for the Liberals in British Columbia with a smaller sample, right? So we're looking at a pretty sizable lead in British Columbia. You add the advantage that they're holding in Ontario, the advantage that they've held in Quebec, the advantage they continue to hold in Atlantic Canada
by big margins,
and now 5 to 10 seats extra in BC.
Yeah.
You're starting to get to an easy majority, and you haven't even had to win any seats in Winnipeg or in Edmonton or Calgary or in Saskatchewan. So that's the situation they're in, and it's a good one for them. And whether they can sustain it is the question. And then you mentioned the local poll.
Yeah, did you want to talk about this? So Beaches East York.
It's a bit puzzling.
It's a bit puzzling. Why don't you take us through it, Eric?
Main Street did a poll in Beaches East York, and they found... so this is the riding for Nate Erskine-Smith, who is expected to resign his seat to run for the... he's going to run for the Liberal nomination in Scarborough Southwest provincially, and if he wins it, and then a by-election is called, he would then resign his seat, Beaches East York, which would open it up for a by-election. Now, the poll found with Nate Erskine-Smith on the ballot, the Liberals were leading by 55 points, and that And that is a completely plausible number because my own projection had pretty much the exact same thing. So that's a normal number to see. And then Main Street said, I'm not really exactly sure how they did it because they didn't include like the questions, but did not include Erskine Smith as the Liberal candidate, but then swapped in Avi Lewis as the NDP candidate.
Yeah.
And suddenly the 55-point Liberal lead turns into a 4-point NDP win. So that is a total net swing of nearly 60 points between the two parties. I found this surprising.
I mean, it's interesting. It's just it's also nuts to see such a big swing. Like you remove a popular local MP as the candidate. Okay, you lose 10-15 points. You insert a potential leader for a rivaling party, a party that has done well provincially in that region.
And they used to hold it federally. I think they won in 2011. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's 2011 is now a long time ago, yes. Right? It's 15 years ago. The NDP was wiped out of Toronto a long time ago, and so 2015 they haven't won in Toronto since 2015, right? And so this is very puzzling. So now it's a sample of 400, so it's not necessarily small for a riding poll. It's a hypothetical, and we know that sometimes hypotheticals can be very swingy and revert back to the mean eventually. I mean, not that long ago in Quebec, we saw a poll that showed that Madame Fréchette, one of the contenders, for the CEQ leadership, could propel the CEQ forward. Next polls, that vanished already.
That's gone.
Is the name Lewis very strong in Ontario to this day? Because we know he has a family, right? And so I'm not sure. I'm puzzled by this. It sure is interesting, and perhaps it would be a target for Monsieur Lewis, better target than Rosemont La Petite Patrie, which I heard he was thinking about. Like, come on, that's not happening. So it's something to follow. But perhaps Main Street pushed a little button here of awareness, because I'm not sure if the NDP had any plans for Monsieur Lewis to run in that by-election if and when it happens, right?
So. I find it hard to believe he has that level of name recognition. Because we've seen polling done on the name recognition of the candidates nationally, and Lewis didn't do all that well. Maybe he's super well known in Beaches East York. I don't know. I think it's a bit of an odd thing. I would hope that the NDP, if they were considering running Avi Lewis in Beaches East York, commissions their own poll. I know the money situation is not great for the New Democrats, but I'd go again. This seems like because it seems incredible that you could have 60-point swing when Carney is as popular as he is, and Avi Lewis seems to be as unknown as he is. I know that he's raised a lot of money, but he has not. Maybe I'm wrong. I think, though, that if I walked around and asked people if they knew who Avi Lewis was, I think most people would not know who he was. And I don't think most people would know Stephen Lewis or David Lewis anymore either.
How long ago was that?
It's been a while. I mean, David Lewis was the leader of the New Democrats 50 years ago.
Yeah, the 70s. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that'll be interesting to see. We'll see if there's a follow-up. Maybe Nate Erskine Smith won't end up resigning his seat. Could all be moot. We will see. Something to follow. Okay. We got... what if we grouped all these together? Because we got the new Angus Reid Institute poll, their quarterly approval ratings poll, which we always love. It's nice to see that come out every 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
And we also got some provincial polls out of British Columbia and Ontario from Main Street and Abacus. So maybe we can group them all together as we're talking about them. Do you want to go through any of the numbers? You want me to do it? What do you want to do?
Okay, I'll start here because I wrote a column for L'Actualité which will be published this afternoon. I'll probably put an English version on 338, the newsletter. It's focused on Legault because this is the last quarterly poll. Trimestral? Quarterly? Quarterly, yeah.
Quarterly.
This is the last quarterly poll with Legault in it. Legault will be gone by the next poll, which should be in June or something. That ended in a whimper. Is that how you say it?
Hey, he's +1. What are you talking about?
It's 26% approval for Monsieur Legault. Last place among all 9 premiers that were polled for their PEI. Too small a sample for the Angus Reid Institute. And when you look at that curve from, because of course the English Street Institute has been doing this for ages. Every quarter they poll satisfaction and approval from all the premiers. And you look at that curve starting in the fourth quarter of 2018 when Monsieur Legault just got to power and then shut up 77% approval for Legault during the pandemic. And then it got back down in the 50s. Got down to like normal numbers in the mid 40s just before the election in 22. Then it got an election bump, and then it's all downhill after this. And I don't know, it just reminds me that this is an example of time and years in power really erode your views. Like there were mistakes along the way, like there is for any government, but it's just a sad end to the two terms of François Legault. So this was my first impression, and my second would be, man, David Eby's in trouble in British Columbia. We mentioned it in the last quarter. So I think he had 40%. It was like 40% in BC is not that much. It's a 2.5 party system over there. I know one BC is making little waves. We'll see if it gets traction. But again, a slip in approval for Monsieur Eby and is in big trouble with the Conservatives having a new leader in May. Eric, what were your observations on the premier poll from the English Street Institute?
Well, beyond those two, I think the headline was that Wab Kinew continues to be the most popular premier in the country at 61%, and he's actually up. He's up 3 points.
Yeah.
I think one of our over-unders, I think, was how long would he... or what his score would be. We had something about Wab Kinew because it is just nuts to see that he's managed to maintain this level of popularity. And he's starting to get closer to the next election than he is from the last election.
Oh, yeah. 2.5 years now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to see. Susan Holt and Scott Moe, the only other ones with over 50%, 54 for Holt, 51 for Moe. The biggest shift, most of the shifts were only 2, 3, 1 point, that kind of thing. But the biggest shift was Tim Houston in Nova Scotia. Had an 11-point drop in his approval rating to 39%. Now, the Nova Scotia government there has just come out with a budget. It had some cuts not primarily, but had some cuts to like some arts sections. And there's been big protests in Nova Scotia as a result. And the government actually reversed some of those cuts because of those protests. So it does seem like this budget has had a real impact on his support. I'll be very curious to see the next voting intentions survey out of Nova Scotia because... the Nova Scotia PCs have just been cruising along. Yeah. And so that was an interesting one. And then you got Doug Ford, who's down again, now to 31%. Still leading in polls. Like, we're not seeing that the opposition has been able to take advantage of it. But once Legault goes,
Ford will
end up probably be the least popular premier in the country. So I thought that those three results for those three leaders was something to see.
About Team Houston in Nova Scotia, we should state that, of course, Nova Scotia has a smaller sample. It's still over 300 respondents with a margin of error of plus or minus 5. So an 11-point drop is twice the margin of error. It is statistically significant. I don't think Monsieur Houston had been much under 50% since the past few years, at least. I don't have the numbers in front of me here. No, I think this is
the first time.
But yeah, it's the first time. And so... when a premier takes a hit like this, even if it's temporary, the first cut is the deepest, right? And so
that's a good one.
Well, it's I learned that it's
the song. It's a song.
Yeah, it's a song, but it's also a golf thing, right? Anyway.
Oh wait, I correct myself. Houston was in the 40s before in 2024, and then he went up again in December. So he has been as low as 41. So this is his lowest result.
This is lowest.
He had 41% in September 2024. So just want to correct myself there.
And also, before we move off this, I have to mention Scott Moe, above 50% again.
He's going to go out on a high.
Premier for life.
He's going to go out on a high. It's happening.
And for those who don't understand, go back and listen to our Premier Draft episode from December.
Leader resignation draft.
It's a fun draft. And Eric stuck with Scott Moe. He really believes in a Scott Moe departure this year. So, anyway.
There is also from in addition to the approval ratings, there was disapproval ratings that was given out by the Angus Reid Institute. So
Yep.
Canoe had the highest net rating of plus 26. Holt was plus 14. Moe was plus 6. Ford is minus 31. Legault is minus 42.
31.
Houston is now
Minus
minus
31.
19. And EB is minus 21. Daniel Smith is only minus 6. Like her approval rating was 46%.
Yeah, that's enough.
And in a 2-horse race right now,
enough.
that's kind of enough. Because as we know, the Alberta Liberals are going to take about 10-15%.
Oh my
of the
God.
vote. So we did get,
Yeah.
just to leap off of that, we got the polls from BC and Ontario from Main Street now, because so Main Street had a 2-point lead for the NDP over the BC Conservatives.
Yep.
It tested the leaders of, or the potential leaders of the BC Conservatives, found that some of them did, I think actually most of them, put the Conservatives ahead.
Yep.
Not
Not by much,
by
but
more than
yep.
others.
Yep.
So it does suggest that the NDP could be in some trouble, as you said, with David Eby's numbers. And then you had Abacus, which still has a 12-point lead for the PCs in Ontario. And not as bad numbers for Ford, personally,
Yeah.
on the positive, negative score. But just a kind of reminder that these approval ratings are about the premiers. It's
Yeah.
not about whether they're preferred over the other options that are on the ballot.
That's right. One little thing on the Main Street BC poll, others was at 13%. So I'm guessing that the next poll in BC from Main Street will have other options, because 13% for others is just you can't keep that. It's too high to have. You have to have other options then. So okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't think you have a quiz this week. We had a lot of fun last week.
I do have a quiz.
Oh, you do?
This
This is a
Yes,
surprise quiz.
This is a surprise. And so it was fun last week. I made you sweat a little bit, but you still had a silver medal. So if you're ready, my friend, I have a quiz. It's the exact same format. So
Okay.
I'll just repeat quick. I have 4 Canadian political figures. I have 3 clues per, and I'll ask Eric. I'll give 1 clue at a time. He has a free guess for every clue. The point total goes down every time he's wrong. So if you're ready, I'll just dive right into it.
All right. Is it still an 8 or a 9 for gold? What's the gold score?
Is this hard? Last week was kind of hard. Is this harder? Okay, I'll put. I think 8 is fine. So it's 4 names. So if you get everybody on the second clue, you get gold. Maybe
Okay,
it's
that
too
sounds
lenient,
fair.
but it's fine. Okay. Here's the quiz for March 19th. Eric, this person was born in 1841. After attending law school in Montreal, he moved to Victoriaville in Quebec, where he became mayor. This person was staunchly opposed to Confederation, which he saw as another step towards, and I quote, Anglification first mapped out by Lord Durham. Shortly after Confederation, this person joined the Quebec Liberals and was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Quebec.
Victoriaville. Okay. In an opposition. I don't think he was from Victoriaville, but the only one that I can think of at the moment would be Dorion.
And it is not Dorion.
Okay.
Second clue. His time as an MLA in Quebec City was not really noteworthy, however, since the Quebec Liberals had suffered a landslide defeat to the Quebec Conservatives. He resigned as an MLA to run for the Federal Liberals in 1874, eventually serving in the Alexander Mackenzie cabinet as a Minister of Inland Revenue.
You got to get that revenue from inland.
That's right.
Okay. Geez. So this is going to be... I don't think it's... No, Laurier wasn't mayor of Victoriaville, so it's not him. And he never sat in the provincial legislature. Okay. I don't know. This is good. I don't know. Is it Marchand?
It is not. Third clue. This person served as the leader of the opposition before and after rising to the position of Prime Minister of Canada, where he led the Liberals to 4 straight majorities.
It was Laurier?
It is Laurier.
He was mayor of
Wilfrid
Victoriaville?
Laurier. Well, yeah, not for long, acclaimed as well. Less than 1,000
Oh.
people in Victoriaville, but yeah. So
Oh, okay. I should have got
so-
that.
Yeah.
Did he sit he sat in the provincial legislature?
in the Arthabasca, Drummondville, I think.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Arthabasca. I should have got. Okay. Oh, that's like an easy one to get, but the clues were tough.
The clues were tough. Well, I have to make them tough. So, okay, you get 1 point.
I don't like that.
From one of the longest serving prime ministers in the country. Okay. Second person.
I was too obscure. I was going with Antoine Aimé Dorion.
First clue. This person was born in 1879 in Glasgow, Scotland, and immigrated to Canada in 1903. He entered provincial politics as an Alberta MLA for the riding of Vermilion, as in eastern Alberta.
Alberta Liberal.
I didn't say
Scotland.
liberal. I didn't say liberal. Alberta.
What did you say?
I just said Alberta MLA.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I heard Liberal. Okay.
Vermilion.
Okay, so an
He
Alberta
could be a
MLA from
liberal.
Scotland.
I mean, he could be a liberal. But...
Oh, sorry. Okay, Alberta. It's probably conservative then. Well, maybe not. From Alberta, from Scotland. I don't have a guess.
Should I read the second clue?
I'll just. Eberhard. I don't think this is not Eberhard.
It's not Eberhard. So, okay. Second clue. This person served in several capacities in the cabinets of Premiers Herbert Greenfield, which was featured last week, and John Brownlee, where he established a reputation of prudent fiscal conservatism. In 1934, a sex scandal forced Brownlee out of office, and this person was the UFA caucus unanimous choice to succeed him as Premier of Alberta.
This is the guy. This is the person I mentioned last week. This is.
Does he have a name?
Yes, it was Richard Reed.
Richard Gavin Reed is the correct answer, my friend. Congratulations, you get 2 points. Let me read for the audience the third clue. When this person took office, Alberta was still suffering from the Great Depression, and many voters were seduced by the proposals of the social credit. This person led the UFA in a landslide defeat at the hand of William Aberhart's social credit and never returned to political life afterwards. So Richard Gavin Reed.
All right.
Okay, well done. You got 3 points.
Okay, so I need to get gold now. I need to get first on the first guess each next two. All right, pressure's on.
Okay. Eric, third person. First clue. This person was born in 1843 in Dundas County in Canada West. This eventual lawyer and politician was an active militiaman. He served as a private both in Cornwall and in the Dundas Reserve Militia. He entered politics as an MPP at Queen's Park in an 1888 by-election in the riding of Dundas.
1888. Okay, I had someone else in mind. That's later. Ontario, 1888, from Dundas. You didn't say anything about a party, eh?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm going to guess it is Whitney.
James P. Whitney is the answer.
Yes. He was a premier around the turn of the century. And you know what the P stands for?
I know. Tell me.
Pliny.
Oh, okay. That's
Like, isn't that like a Roman
that's strange.
philosopher or something?
You would know.
James
I don't
Pliny
know.
Rittner. Whitney.
You get 3 points. Wow, nice
in it.
pull.
Still in it.
Six.
What
Let
are the
me
other
give
clues?
the other clues. Following re-election in both 1890 and 1894, this person became leader of the Ontario Conservative Party in 1896. After several defeats, in the 1905 Ontario election, this person led the Conservatives to victory for the first time in 3 decades by defeating the Liberal government of William Ross. And the third clue was, during his tenure, he supported anti-Catholic and anti-French Canadian sentiments by passing a regulation which banned the teaching of French in the first years of school. This person died in office in 1914, shortly after he had won the 1914 election. So
That's Regulation 17.
Oh, you know about that.
Yes, okay. It was an important thing in Franco-Ontario, Franco-Ontarian rights and all this.
I would guess.
Learning French in school. Anyway.
Ah, boy. James P. Whitney. So, okay, so you got 6 points.
I'm still
If you get this on the second clue, you got gold.
No, I need 8 points, we said. So I'm only at 5. I didn't get Laurier.
No.
No, I did get Laurier.
You get the third clue, so you have 6 points now. You had the 1, and then 2, and then 3. Okay. So there you go. All right.
Okay. I just need
Eric, I want
to get super
fourth
gold.
and last person. Super gold. This person was born in 1892 and studied to become an agronomist. He studied at the Séminaire de Rimouski and then at the Massachusetts Agricultural College. After years of teaching, he worked as an agronomist for the Quebec Ministry of Agriculture.
Oh, I know who this is, I think.
You do?
It's, yeah, of course. He's from, he studied at, out in the Bas-Saint-Laurent, and it was Adélard Godbout.
You're ruining the quiz for everybody listening. It is Adélard Godbout. So, wow. First clue again, you get super gold. Let me read the other clues. This person entered politics as a member of the Legislative Assembly of Quebec in 1929 and served as Minister of Agriculture in the Alexandre Taschereau cabinet from 1930 to 1936. Third clue was, this person remained the only party leader to ever defeat Maurice Duplessis' Union Nationale in a general election, although he also led the Quebec Liberals to many defeats against Duplessis, notably in 1936, 1944, and 1948. And so Adélard Godbout is... What gave it up? Is it the Séminaire de Rimouski?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was an agronomist.
He was... he taught it. Stuff
oh
about
my
farming
god. Okay, so you started by missing 2 clues on Wilfrid Laurier.
Wilfrid Laurier, yeah.
And then you finish strong and you get 9 points. That is platinum, super gold. Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you, sir. Okay, number of the week. Why don't you go first?
Let me pull it up here. Okay, the number of the week is, you may have heard, lots of things are going down in the Middle East, and it's not cool. Léger had a poll on this, asking Canadians what they think of what's going on. Are they aware of what's going on, and do they approve of what's going on? And I can tell you that Canada is not very supportive of what the United States and Israel are doing. So, based on what you have heard or seen about the conflict in the Middle East, do you support or oppose the United States and Israel forces bombing Iran? Total support in Canada was 25%, opposed to 58%. So it's not a 20-80 proposition, but there's also almost 20% of people who prefer not to answer. So Canadians are aware of this conflict. They really don't like it, according to numbers. And there's no big difference, regional or generational. Canadians are not impressed with what the U.S. is doing in Iran.
Yeah, and I saw from that poll, too, it doesn't suggest... There's not, sympathy with Iran, right? One of the questions was, should Canada support Iran?
Yeah,
and that got very low results. So it's just... people just don't like that the thing is happening.
Yeah.
So my number of the week is the number 1. Because Pierre Poilievre, today, we haven't heard it yet, but he went yesterday on the Joe Rogan podcast. And that episode is supposed to come out later today, so we haven't heard it or anything like that. But it is the number 1 podcast in Canada on Spotify. I looked that up this morning. It's the number 2 podcast on Apple Podcasts. But it is not just a very popular podcast in the United States, but it is a popular podcast in Canada. We are the number 1 number-based podcast in Canada. Pierre Poilievre might come on. Who knows? We'll see.
We don't have guests, though.
They can talk to our people and
sure.
But anyway, so it's a big podcast. We'll see what's going to happen with it. It's 3-hour interview. So
it's a 3-hour interview. It's a 3-hour interview.
His episodes are usually 3 hours. So
wow,
we'll see what happens. But anyway, it is the number 1 podcast, and we'll see if it's going to have an impact on Pierre Poilievre's numbers because he needs a bit of a bump. And we'll see if he'll get a Rogan bump or the opposite of that.
Rogan dip, yeah. That's very interesting. We'll see. All right.
Okay, well, that'll be it for this week. If you want to join the podcast, you can go to thenumberspod.ca and support the podcast. You get bonus episodes. We're thinking that we might do a special fun draft on Monday for our special episode. So tune into that. So that's at thenumberspod.ca. So Philippe, have a good weekend. We'll chat next week. And next week, we're also heading out to Winnipeg. We'll have some extra episodes around the NDP Leadership Convention. And so I'm looking forward to it. And until next time.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you, Eric. Have a great weekend.